I hope you're all enjoying the cold, especially those who are outside, who have come from outside Delhi. Um, but this is, I would like this not to be a monologue where I am only speaking. Um how many of you are founders or people who have either started a company or thinking about starting a company? So I see many hands raised. So I'll introduce myself. My name is Bipin Preet Singh. I am co-founder and CEO of MobiKwik. We are a fintech company, and I started this more than 15 years ago. My background is, I studied electrical engineering at IIT Delhi, and then I worked in companies like Intel, NVIDIA, Freescale Semiconductors, and then after having worked for about few years, I decided to start MobiKwik. But those are facts. What's known is who I am and how I got there first. And when I talk like that, it may seem like pretty straightforward. Study at a great college, work in a great company, start a company, do an IPO, right? Sounds like a straight template, simple template. But guess what? It's nothing but straight. It's at least for me and my journey, which I want to share with you today. It's been exhilarating. Uh, how many of you been on a roller coaster? Uh, you remember the feeling, especially when it goes down or on a twist, with your everything inside your stomach about to come out. And many people refuse to go to any roller coasters, including my co-founder and my wife. But I really enjoy it because it tests you and your mental and physical world to the extreme. Doing a startup and scaling it is nothing short of doing a roller coaster many times, maybe a billion times. I don't know what's the count. And that's what you know uh, it's about. But before I get there, I want to tell you a little bit about myself and whether I was destined to get here, whether I was destined to start MobiKwik or bring it to IPO, which we recently concluded about a month back. And if I look back at my life, I don't see many such signals, actually. I was born in a small town in Odisha called Rourkela, and my father used to run a shop, small shop, selling wool, selling books. And even as a kid, I used to sometimes sit on the galla, on the cash counter, and I enjoyed reading books because those are the books that we were selling. Uh, those were my earliest memories. But then I think we are how our fates change us. In 1984, our shop was burnt down. And that was the only source of income for my family. And I am the eldest sibling in a family of 3 kids. And then we relocated to Delhi. We became, I would want to literally use, people use the term middle class and poor very easily these days. But we literally became so poor that we had to live in a one-room house. Not one bedroom house, 1 BHK, but 5 of us living in one room because that's the rent we could afford. after getting uprooted from Rourkela and coming to Delhi. And so that was tough. And it was very tough, but there was only one thing, which my father used to talk about, which is that, you need to find what you're really good at. And as a kid, I was pretty good at maths. I used to get 100 on 100 on maths, and starting from grade 6, 7. And someone told me about IIT. Uh, I didn't have the money, or we didn't have the money to go to the best schools in Delhi when he came to Delhi. In fact, I studied in a government school in grade 9 and grade 10. And it was because the fees was basically free. But I was determined that I want to study, and I used to study like mad. I go back and think about my life, whether I worked harder in MobiKwik or whether I used to study harder back then when I was a teenager. I can't figure out, because I remember one incident which my family tells me I used to study so hard that, once I even fainted. But I was determined that something has to change. Kuch change karna to padega. And I studied. Eventually, my dad convinced one private school in West Delhi. The director of that school had said that anybody who got 80% in 10th, you can bring that kid and we would give them scholarship. And my dad went there with me and to tell him ki is ladke ko le lo, he will do well for you, and give him scholarship. We can't afford to pay your fees. And that director, Mr. Kapoor, he's no longer there, but he took that bet, and I studied 11th and 12th from that school in Shalimar Bagh, West Delhi. And till today, I think I have scored the highest marks of anyone in that school since. So I had, of course, physics, chemistry, maths. How? Because I worked so hard. I worked literally my ass off. And then I got into IIT as well. But I didn't get into IIT in first attempt. I mean, I actually did. I gave JEE in 97, and I got a decent rank. But I was, I got 1100 something rank. And that's actually pretty decent in JEE. It's an all India engineering competition. But I wanted to study electronics or electrical or something like that. And I couldn't get that in Delhi, which I wanted, IIT Delhi. And then, of course, I got through Delhi College of Engineering, which is as good. I studied there. I went there because, I didn't want to go outside Delhi. And the reason why I didn't want to go outside Delhi is because we didn't even have money to pay for the hostel. And even at that time, IITs used to have some few thousand rupees fees. And I remember one of my uncles, my mother's cousins, he gave us 5,000 rupees. And he said that if you get into IIT, please use this. But when I went to DC, I knew that, something is missing. I want to get into IIT. Because, it's life mein ek baar you're going to do. If you feel you're capable and deserving, then you should be there. But, it was DC fees was, of course, very less. But I studied again, and I gave the exam in 98 again. But I didn't have much expectations. I don't know how, but I got through. And I got electrical engineering at IIT Delhi in my second attempt. So I had some 200 something rank all India. But even then, the question was that, do we have money to waste 1 year? Because effectively you're going to waste 1 year and study for 4 more years before getting a job. So then, many people advise that, okay, IIT is IIT, so you can go. It's okay to waste 1 year. And I went there and I studied for 4 years. And everybody expected that being the eldest, I will go and, get a job, which I did. I studied at Intel. I worked at Intel. That was my first job. In fact, 2001, if you guys remember, anybody passing out in 2001 too had a pretty tough time at IITs and DCs because of 9/11. And because of 9/11, the global economy had crashed. A lot of companies had stopped hiring, stopped coming to campus. So in fact, I got Intel outside campus. I hustled and somebody told me Intel is coming to Nehru Place in some hotel. I don't know what is that. I forget the name of the hotel. And I gave that, I went and gave the interview, got through. That is how my career started. So when I look back, I say, my entire life, it's been about facing one challenge and second challenge and third challenge and overcoming that. And the one thing, which is, of course, I'll talk about MobiKwik. After having worked for 7 years, my DNA is that even today, after working at MobiKwik and leading MobiKwik for 15 years, I am just not satisfied. There's something inside me always there, which is an itch. Something is itching. What next? ये तो हो गया. Now, in fact, many people are asking me, अब तो IPO हो गया, now what are you going to do? But guess what? I'm busy in office thinking about what next product we want to build, what is the new strategy for the next few years. Working with the team, getting into the level of details that is needed. Because I think that's somewhat what a founder DNA is. To get started, you need to be insane. If you want to start a company ever, don't do it for the money, ever. Because there are far easier ways to make money. I mean, because stock market is one, but even working at a job, you can actually make much more money, much more easily. This, of course, I didn't know when I started. When I started MobiKwik, I was like, I am bored with my job, okay? It's not like I had a lot of savings, but whatever little PF I had, and then Upasna had some money, we'll start something, literally sitting in our drawing room, putting a table there, and sitting there, just 2 laptops, and start a company. It sounds crazy, but that's how it was. And then when we hired our first employee and second and third, they used to sit on the same table. They used to sit on the same table, and in between I used to say ki chai ya Maggi chahiye, so I would go to the kitchen and make Maggi for them. Like literally, that's how we started. We had no godfathers. These days, if you start a company, you can throw a stone and hit an angel investor. I'm sure many of you are already either angel investors, already looking at the startups that are coming up in India. But when I started, 2009, there were no such, there were, but it was a very, very small scene. It was literally, nothing. And in hindsight, that was a good thing, because basically, if you don't have anybody to fall back upon, then the only thing you can do is believe in yourself. And that's what has kept us going. If I have to say what has kept us going for 15 years through the roller coaster of MobiKwik, there is one thing and one thing alone, which is self-belief. Now, it's very easy to say because everybody says self-belief, believe in yourself. Very easy to say, but very, very difficult to practice. The moment somebody will say something about you, about the business that you're starting, about your idea, about competition, about your industry. At that moment, your self-belief will get tested. Not once, but multiple times. And that is where, as founder, if you're a founder or if you're build up of a founder DNA, you dig deep and you say, boss, no, it's okay. The entire world is saying I am wrong or I am on the wrong path. But I have done the maths and I can see this idea or this business or this product being successful. I have imagined it in my dreams. Do you think I imagined that my company will do an IPO when I started? You know what my best case scenario was? When I started MobiKwik, my best case scenario was कि यार कोई आके $1 million में खरीद लेगा, I will sell it. I mean, for me, that much money I'd never seen in my life. तो उस समय $1 million was like 5 crore, not like 8.5 today, but I was like 5 crore अगर होंगे तो लाइफ में मजे ही मजे हैं, मतलब what else is needed? And this is I'm as a 28, 29-year-old, and I will kid you not, in 2 years of starting MobiKwik, I had such an offer. I had such an offer. But by that time, I had seen that what I am building is actually, it has some promise. People are using my product because I can see it in the data. People are also complaining, which means they are using it, right? I have 10 people whose salaries I am paying. So then, as a mathematician, you think, acha, this is 500,000 users. Can it become 5 million users? Then you say, yaar, 1 million is too less. Because I can see this 500K can become 5 lakh ka, you can make it 50 lakhs. So, this kind of a awareness about yourself, about what you are doing, whether it is building a business, or even I would say it applies even in the job that you're doing, is in my view paramount to success. Because one is of course belief, but the second is what are you testing the belief against? What are you basing it on? Is it just, just you are basing it on some fiction? Or are you seeing something that others can't? World's biggest success stories and companies have come from founders who saw something that others couldn't. Recently, you must have heard of Mr. Musk, Elon Musk. उसने तो 5 बार करके दिखा दिया. He did it 5 times. People wrote him off so many times. But he saw something. Not once, but 5 times. So I think, but it was not based on, oh, I believe in myself. I have the tools, and I can see my tools translating into something, a product, a service, a business, which is growing. And I think if I have to say that the biggest proof that you ever need in anything that you're doing, whether it is working or not, is growth. It's growth. Growth is the magic term. It applies to your personal life, it applies to your professional life, and it applies so much in a big way if you're a founder. Because if it doesn't grow, or if you can't make it grow, uh, then you have to really ask whether there's real juice in it. And growth itna easily aati nahi hai. It's not like, you know, you make something and it comes. It's a function of your solution meeting the market. Right? You have made something, product, service, whatever it is. It meets the market. You have some hypothesis. And then you see some signs that people are using it. And more people are using it. And people are saying, I need this kind of solution. It may not be perfect. It may not be perfect to begin with. And it never is. It cannot be. You know, when we started MobiKwik, we didn't know much about digital fraud and everything. So first day, second day, when we opened MobiKwik.com, that time there was no app to the public. We saw, I saw a few transactions of 50,000 rupees. And what was the use case? People are putting money in the wallet, MobiKwik wallet, to do a recharge, mobile top-up. That was the use case. And I was so happy. I was so happy कि यार लोग 50,000 का recharge कर रहे हैं. Of course, it was fraud. Right? So, you have to look at the numbers. You have to look at the traction. Traction is the term for anybody who wants to build business. And if you can get traction using whatever resources you have, and I'm telling you the, traction and growth doesn't necessarily come, we all think about, we have to hire the best people. We have to write the best code if you're building a tech. We have to have Macs in the office. Guess what? That's not needed. It's not needed. At least not for when you're starting a company. Because when you're starting a company, you're just trying to prove that there is something that needs to happen. And so, when we started, I had rented laptop. I didn't even have a laptop of my own. Of course, on Windows, no Macs. And all my first hires were all freshers. I literally interviewed one guy in 2011 in Delhi College of Engineering, and he was like the last guy to get placed. And we hired him as a sales guy because we knew that he's not technically smart to be an engineer. So he became our sales guy. Our first office was like a 5-bedroom or a 4-bedroom DDA flat in Dwarka. That was our first office. Then we got another apartment sideways when we grew a little bit because we had more people. So we said, this is our tower 1, this is tower 2. From there, we kept building and we raised funding. This is the other thing that is always top of everybody's mind, ki funding. Yeah, if you see the evidence, world's best companies were not built on the back of investors. Yes, there are many success stories also. But investors and funders come to those who don't need it. It's a highly counterintuitive thing. If you really need funding, you will not get it. So how do you get to a position where you don't need it? Or there are 10 people chasing you. The only way to do that is to look at yourself, look at the product, look at the traction, go back to traction and numbers, growth. If you can demonstrate growth, if you can demonstrate product market fit, all investors will run towards you. You don't have to run after them. So we at MobiKwik, we were fortunate to have many, many investors. But in our space, you would know, people got so much more funding. 1:20 or 1:30 at one time. So if I had $1, my competition had $20 or $30, 30 rupees to spend. And so they could have 10x more people, 20x more people. Very easy to give up at that point. Very, very easy. And we had offered, ki yaar, ab, dekho, this space is finished. Okay, this space is finished. All these digital payments, wallet is finished. What are you doing? Why don't you sell to someone? Some big corporate guys in Bombay. I'm sure they want your technology, want your product. But we said, nahi yaar, I mean, I went back to the same thing and said, look, I am looking at my business. And I'm seeing how people are using it. Sure, I have a smaller audience. I have a smaller business. But I look at the growth rate. With the limited resources I have, what I am able to achieve. When I look back at it and I said, no, I'm going to take this to IPO. This company should do an IPO. And trust me, not many people in the industry, you ask most VCs, most investors, I don't think they believed MobiKwik will do an IPO. Right now, everybody will say, in hindsight, because we have done it. But if you did a sample survey, 90 out of 100 or 80 out of 100 would have said, yeah, they cannot do IPO. They should ideally sell to someone. Again, going back to the same thing, we believed because we looked at our business. And your business is your business. No one else's opinion on it matters. They have an opinion. You have an experience. So if you decide that your company should go public, then it will go public. You just need to figure out the rest is all the details. And we had in 2021, we actually attempted to go public. First time. We filed. And we were trying to raise $250 million, and it was at a much higher valuation that we wanted, 700, 800 million, something like that. And the market conditions changed. Somebody else got listed. Their stock didn't do well. And everybody said, this is not, we are going to do an IPO. Now, imagine this. You worked 1 year to build, like doing an IPO is not an easy thing. You have to do so much grunt work, which as an entrepreneur or as a founder, you think, yeah, ye kya bakwas hai? Why am I doing all this paperwork? Whereas I should be building new stuff, selling. Either I am building or I am selling. Building or selling. That's what I like. And why I'm doing paperwork? Spend one year and we had to pull out. And we had some money left in the bank. And then we decided, yeah, nahi, it's okay. Reset again and try again. And that's what we did. It took us 3 more years. From 21 we started, we filed for again in 23, late 23. And guess what? We managed to do just in 24. Otherwise, ye 25 chalu ho gaya tha. So December is when we completed our IPO. It took us 1 year, and if I have to write, and especially Upasna, who's a rock star, she led the entire IPO. And in our space, I'm in fintech space. In fintech space, if you're reading news in the last 1 year, you would know what the news is. It's not great. It's not great. Yeah, fintech. So many issues. So much negative media coverage, so much negativity in perception. So we went to investors, I'll not name them, one of the investors we went to. And we said, ki meeting to de do yaar, for the IPO. And he said, मीटिंग का क्या करोगे? We don't invest in your space. We don't invest in your space. What do you answer to that? It's not about MobiKwik as a company. I want to invest in your space because I'm seeing what's happening. I don't want to take a risk. You know, and then this guy said, and this is a little crazy story. This guy said, okay, you know, we know you for a while, but kal aap office aa jao. It was in BKC. I will get you some good lunch. And so I and Upasna went there, and we did lunch with them, meeting with them. And guess what? That guy wrote us the largest check in our IPO. This guy who said ki I don't invest in this space, to writing the largest check in our IPO in the anchor book. And not some small guy, like literally the biggest guy out there. And then I was like, you know, as a founder, you sometimes forget what you can achieve. If you just keep doing the things that you want to do, keep hustling, and keep believing in yourself. Of course, you have to do all the right things, and you know, there are many people who want to take just shortcuts. वो नहीं चलता है, मतलब shortcuts, you know, eventually get discovered, and you know, all the truths come out. But if you're doing the right thing, if you're building something, and if you have passion, and if you have belief, you don't need to be Einstein or Newton or Elon Musk to build a company and take it to IPO. If I can do it, I believe anyone can do it. Thank you.